The Madman! Welcome to the top Hearthstone cards of the week. Insolvent Project, a rogue 3-mana spell. Shuffle the leftmost 2 cards in each player's hand into their deck. I've been a fan of having hand disruption in the game, and Insolvent Project tickles my fancy. I think this is good design in the sense that it's not like the combo decks are ruined, it's just delay. You can kind of possibly play around it by keeping 2 cards that aren't combo pieces on the left side if this ever were to become mainstream in the meta. Cool design. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I actually think it's too weak right now. I think it can be 2 mana, so I'm putting the balance at 3 stars. I think at 1 mana it would be too strong because if you don't have any cards in your hand, it could be discard the opponent's leftmost 2 cards, since you yourself wouldn't have to discard anything then. Well, shuffle. Shady Loan. 0 mana, draw 2 cards, shuffle 3 debt cards into your deck. The debt is a dead draw, which means when you draw it, it's just a 1 mana do nothing. I cast Shady Loan, which draws 2 cards from my deck. So yeah, this card's really ridiculously powerful, but the author was aware of this enough, or made aware of this, thanks Custom Hearthstone, that there's take 2 at it. Shady Loan, 1 mana, draw 2 cards, shuffle 3 debt cards into your deck. Debt 3 mana instead. Now with Gadgets in Auction, your debt still costs a lot to play. So we're getting in the right direction here in terms of balance, but there's still major problems. Namely, that this card would be run in Odd Rogue all the time. In Odd Rogue, you already kind of run Myras as a last-ditch resort, but now you can do Shady Loan as a half-measure ditch resort. Play your cards as usual, and then you have this Shady Loan, which draws you 2 cards near the end, which might give you enough fuel. Odd Rogue's time frame wins or loses before the debt really becomes a problem, like having to draw that many cards from your deck. So this is still a problem, and I'm going to base my design and balance off of this particular 1 mana, 3 mana version. I'm going to put the design of this card at 3 stars. Mostly because I'm a little bit uncertain about the flavor here. You take out a loan and you get some debt, but the debt doesn't really seem to be mandatorily paid back or something. So what I was thinking is maybe a slight redesign of adding the Curse of Reform text on a debt. Basically, when you're holding the debt, you take damage at the beginning of your turn. And with that, I think it could also be balanced if it got raised to 2 mana. So 1, it couldn't be put into Odd Rogue, and also 2, I think 1 mana, draw 2 cards is too cheap. So balance, 3 stars. At 2 mana, you could probably decrease the debt price, especially if you change the flavor of it to make the debt also do damage to you until you actually cast the spell and finally paid back the debt, so to say. Next is Sunday Elemental for Shaman, 2 mana, 2/2. Elemental. Death Rattle, add a cherry on top to your hand. Cherry on top is a 2 mana, give an elemental +2/+2 spell. This card reminds me a lot of what probably happens in the backroom design of the Hearthstone team, where they'll come up with nicknames for cards and then, rename them afterwards. Because a Sunday Elemental is not going to actually see print, and as silly as a game as Hearthstone is, we're not going to have a cherry on top spell. Unless there's an expansion called Desserts of Silithus or something. Wait, that could actually work. Anyways, in terms of design, I think it's about 4 stars, in the sense that when you really boil down to it, it's not that brilliant. It's just a 2 mana, 2/2 elemental, which adds a spell that buffs elementals. It's okay. The balance, I'm gonna give 3 stars, in the sense that I think that the cherry on top could be reduced in mana to 1. Next up, Blackrock Soul. 4 mana, warrior card, Death Rattle. Deal 1 damage to a random minion, repeat until minion dies. It's a weapon, so 2 attack, 2 durability. The card's Death Rattle is basically Bouncing Blades effect, which is a 3 mana spell which didn't really see much play, if any. So I think that's fair when you bundle the 2/2 onto it. There's currently a major problem in the design though, which is that Black Howl Gunspire exists as a card. And if you combo Blackrock Soul with Black Howl Gunspire, you're dealing 24 damage the moment you play Black Howl Gunspire and you set up a appropriate situation, which should be doable. So my solution? It's rather simple. Print this card in 1.5 years when Black Howl Gunspire rotates out. Will it be OP and wild? Well, I mean, Wild has more tools to be able to deal with a 24 damage combo. I'm going to give the design 4 stars, docking a point because you can't print this card while Black Howl Gunspire is in the game. And the balance is currently 2 stars, but you print this after the Gunspire has rotated out, and it's 5 stars. And I'm sure that the Hearthstone design team does that all the time as well. They're like waiting for certain cards to rotate out so that they can print certain cards. Next we have a Memory Stone, a Warlock weapon, 4 mana, 0 attack, 4 durability. Whenever you discard a card, return it to your hand, and this loses 1 durability. A way to get around discarding your cards, maybe build a control deck that can actually have some discard mechanics to it. Cool idea. I'll give the design 5 stars. The balance though is currently way too weak, I would say. Zoo decks will never run Memory Stone because their way of getting around discard is just have no hand. And control decks will not find this enticing enough to run discard cards. I think it can be buffed by quite a bit, perhaps even up to 2 mana Memory Stone. And maybe you lower the durability to 3 since 4 is a bit overkill. So balance 2 stars. But cool idea, and can be changed relatively easily. Next we've got a Shaman Legendary Deeproot. 2 mana 1/2 Death Rattle, equip a 1/1 Bark Grasp. The Bark Grasp is a 1 mana 1/1 weapon, which Death Rattles to add a Rock Fist spell to your hand, and the Rock Fist is 2 mana, deal 1 damage, summon Deeproot. Not that the mana cost of Bark Grasp mattered because you get it up for free after Deeproot does. A way to think about this is it's kind of like a Mage hero power, and a Rogue hero power, and a Paladin hero power all in one. And that leads me to Rock Fist is possibly a bit too good, because 2 mana get the Mage, Rogue, and Paladin hero power sounds rather insane. Too much value. The idea is cool. I'll give the design 5 stars, and I think the balance right now is 3 stars because the primary offender Rock Fist costs too little to get all of that benefit. I would bump it up to 3 mana, and then I'd be like, ooh, is that fair? Well, we'd have to see, but infinite value is a little bit spooky. Next up is not a card, but simply a change to the upgraded hero power of Shaman. So currently the upgraded hero power of Shaman just is you choose which totem to summon, which is kind of pathetic, really. Instead of choosing what totem to get, you still randomly get one of these, and you either get the Imbued Healing Totem, which is at the end of your turn restore 2 health to all friendly minions, the Imbued Searing Totem, which is a 2/2 instead of a 1/1, Imbued Stoneclaw Totem, which is Taunt and Divine Shield, or Imbued Wrath of Air Totem, which is spell damage +2. And you know what? I'm in favor of this change, because boy is the Shaman upgraded hero power super weak right now. So design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. This is the first non-card that I've actually reviewed. So pretty interesting. Speedy Skelly is a 5 mana 5/2 rush with Death Rattle, summon a 0/2 Pile of Bones. The Pile of Bones is 2 mana. At the start of your turn, transform this minion into a 5/2 Speedy Skelly with Rush. Immediately, I guess you could compare this with Steel Rager, which is the 4 mana 5/1 rush. The 1 extra health probably doesn't really matter that much. So adding 1 health to have the possibility of resummoning Speedy Skelly. Which means that if your opponent does not have a minion out, then they pretty much have to spend some sort of resource, like actually a spell, to remove the Pile of Bones afterwards, which makes this a situational sometimes 2 for 1 if you manage to kill their last minion with a Speedy Skelly. So kind of cool design there, but I am going to dock at 1 point in initial design due to the problem that this card would just snowball out of control every once in a while in Arena. Because yeah, in the case where you just kill their last guy and they have no answer, then you just get infinite Speedy Skellys eventually, and boy is that really powerful. 4 stars on design, 4 stars on balance. The change in balance will also fix the design in the sense that we can just change the balance to be 0/1 Pile of Bones. That way it's much more accessible to deal with across a lot of classes. Next we've got Itty Bitty Bee, 0 mana, 2/1 beast. After this attacks, die. And the intent is, after this attacks, it dies, which should be the text, because otherwise some people would be confused and be like, oh wow, my hero dies if I attack with Itty Bitty Bee? No, it's B that dies. And I think this is a cool idea, a minion that has a lifespan of exactly 1. So design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. Great design for a 0 mana minion. Next up, I never knew that that pink-haired gnome had such a creepy grin in one of the pictures, but here you do. It's Cheatin' Millie, 3 mana 2/2. Start of game effect, you may mulligan your cards twice, then shuffle 3 Butterfingers into your deck. Butterfingers is a card of when you draw this, draw a card and discard it. Note that it does not come with a replacement draw. So when you draw the Butterfingers, it's just there in your hand. Which is a big drawback, because eventually you're gonna have 3 dead draws in your deck if you go through your deck long enough, which means that you probably want to play this in an aggro deck. And you also want to play an aggro deck, perhaps because mulliganing your cards twice is really strong in an aggro deck. Start off strong with the ideal draw, and you could just steamroll your opponent. Therefore, I have to offer Millie a 1-star in design, because that is bad design to have your aggro decks get the God Hand more consistently. Having twice the chance to get Kalisteth in the mulligan, do not like. The balance on this is also a bit too weak at the moment, because as good as mulliganing your cards twice is, it is really bad to actually have 3, arguably 4 blank cards in your deck, because Cheating Millie is also a bad deal at a 3 mana 2/2. So much variance when you actually put in 4 patches into your deck, and that just feels terrible all the time. The theoretical balance of this card is 3 stars, in the sense that I think it's too weak. I wouldn't buff this card at all, because I think that the mechanic is just bad. And finally, we have Little Susie. 4 mana, 1/3, Battlecry, summon a Snow Flipper Penguin, Murloc Tinyfin, and Fateful Lumi. The idea was to create 3 very cute 1/1 summons. And I feel like there was a miss here, because Fateful Lumi, while cute, is not as cute as cykyat. And because of that, I must dock the design 1 star. No, I'm only half joking. So design is 4 stars, and the reason is because currently Quest Rogue is out there. And Quest Rogue would like to pay 4 mana to summon 4 4/4s. So the balance is 3 stars in that it's too strong right now. But there's an easy solution. All you have to do is wait 6 months when Quest Rogue rotates out, and then you can print it, and then it's like 5 stars. Yes, it would also be good in buff decks like Token Druid, but as a one-of legendary, that's probably fine. So that's it for this week's custom Hearthstone cards. It was really interesting going through this particular set, because there's a lot of good designs, but the balance for a bunch of these cards was slightly off or just off. And coming up with solutions to these is also an interesting part.